Welcome to Colorado Soul Stories, showcasing changemakers and creatives, past and present, who have helped to make Colorado not just a pretty place to behold, but a soulful place to be. I'm your host, Mama Jill, longtime Colorado resident, former teacher, and freelance journalist. Let's get started with our next episode.
Ooh, Coco, you're so bittersweet. You're rich, dark, and deep. 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 Rich, dark, and deep. Rich, dark, and deep. Rich, dark, and deep. Oh, Coco.
Hi again, Mama Jill here. That was a little tease of things to come. Our next guest on Colorado Soul Stories is the very soulful Northsider artist Cipriano Ortega. Cipriano is an original resident of Northwest Denver with deep roots. He and I met during COVID while I searched Instagram for local musicians to play my socially distant outdoor art walk at the time. Cipriano accepted my invitation and, unbeknownst to me, debuted his band for the first time in my front yard. Folks were captivated by his unique and original songs. Our conversation is happening just months after the launch of his first album, LoLo House. During our conversation, we explore his creative process and how art reflects the artist. We talk about home and how place influences our lives. I was happy to hear he has a lovely relationship with his artist parents, and the thread that seems to be flowing through these recent podcasts, how art can be a form of activism. We finished the session with Cipriano sharing a few riffs on his custom-built 2-string bass. I left this visit feeling very proud to know this special Colorado artist. Hi there, we are at Stewart Street Studios again. You might hear my dog barking in the background, hopefully not. We're with longtime Northsider Cipriano Ortega. And we're going to reminisce a little bit, and then we're going to talk about what's new, namely a brand new album. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to be here.
It's good, so good to have you. And Cipriano has been at Stewart Street before, back in 2020. Somehow we got connected when I was organizing an outdoor, socially distant COVID art walk in the neighborhood. And we were looking for music to play in people's yards to cheer everybody up along with the art. And Cipriano brought his band and blew us all away.
Yeah, that was the first show I think I ever did with the 2-string low rock setup.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember because in 2020, that's when it kind of all started, discovering, the 2-string slide bass through watching The Sopranos. I was watching The Sopranos, and I revisited it this summer. And I remember, I think it's season 2, episode 6 or something like that. And Meadow Soprano is watching MTV and Morphine's on there.
Oh.
And they get like about a minute, screen time on the TV in the show. And then the end credits is Buena by Morphine. And I remember I had already been toying with the idea of a 1-string bass because I figured I could play that. Seemed simple enough. And that's when it all started. Yeah. So it's been about 5 years now. So
5 years that you've kind of gone from there. And
and let's see, maybe 5 years, and then 6 different basses later, and
did you build them all?
I had a big heavy hand in designing them and also building them. But I want to do a huge shout out to my close friend, and he's a luthier of 30 plus years and a musician and an alchemist, is how I describe him, and a wizard.
Wow.
The guitar wizard, Scott Lofquist.
Okay.
And he lives over here in Wheat Ridge. And I remember I brought him one of my first ever 2-string basses, and he wasn't turned off by the idea, for one. And then two, we slowly started bringing other parts and things like that I could do to a point, but I needed more expertise. And then we just became friends, and our relationship's grown together. And I'm currently actually working on producing 2 albums of his. So
So
it's
that
nice.
means
Yeah.
when you're producing,
Mhm.
what does that mean?
I mean, for me, for this particular process and project for Scott, he laid down all of the tracks himself. He played everything and sang on it and recorded it on this, at the time, state-of-the-art digital recording interface, and that was 23 years ago.
Okay.
And then he kind of sat on it, and life happened. And I talked to him, many years ago about helping him with music production, and I think he finally did come around, and now we're pulling off all of those and mixing them and exporting them from the digital console to another digital
Okay.
interface. But
The
now,
updated.
and so for me, it's more archiving and producing in that way, but also taking note about mixing things. So rudimentary, fundamental stuff, but still very important to help an artist
Yeah.
have their frequencies heard appropriately.
Frequencies.
So,
Yes. I
Yeah.
like that. I'm learning a little bit about that myself, but
yeah, I bet.
in a very rudimentary manner.
That's how it starts,
yeah.
rudimentary. Yeah, and always
Right?
good to revisit it that way too.
Yeah. So Cipriano just came out with his album LoLo House. Some of that is inspired by growing up on the north side.
Mm-hmm.
I especially liked hearing about you do evening walks or nighttime walks.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Do you feel safe doing that?
I think, I'm just pretty aware of things. And I think when people perceive, what is safe, most people either, I don't know, they picture certain people, I think.
Yeah.
And I think for some people, I look like those certain people. So I always
They
have
stay
felt
away from you.
pretty safe. Yeah. And I think,
Okay.
again, going to the album itself, being in Breckenridge is a beautiful experience as it was. That was also kind of the case of being seen as a certain way. And also leaning towards blues records and studying all those blues records in the summer, and really having music as my only companion and constant focus really allowed me to just use all of that energy. I wouldn't even call it negative or positive. It's just what you're receiving from the universe and how you're reflecting it within yourself, and what do you do as a creative person to create, in my case, frequencies to emit feelings.
And that's a huge piece of what I was going to talk to you about. And so we'll just segue into that.
Yeah.
So Cipriano had a lovely
Residency.
residence. And how long was it?
3 months.
Oh, 3 months.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a nice chunk of time.
Yeah, through Breck Create in Breckenridge. And I think it was 2 artists, myself and another woman who was a fiber artist. And I think we were the last cohort to actually do 3 months. I think they're breaking them up into like month-long residencies now.
Okay.
So we were one of the last people to
Yeah.
get that long of a chunk of time being in that little small town.
Yeah. So were you right in town?
Yes, the house, it was the Robert White House. It's the historical Robert White House, and it was moved from its original location to more in the center point. And Breck Create has their creative campus, and that's where it resides. And it's literally in the center of town.
Nice. I
Yeah.
mean, that's nice to grab something to eat.
Yeah, it's nice, but it's also people are always around. So there's no like backyard or front yard or gated
Oh,
area. So
okay.
the outside green area, they would also do summer concerts as well too. So it was very much always in the public eye in the sense of that. Obviously, evening time, people go away a little bit farther and go get stuff to eat, but always kind of felt like a little fish in a fishbowl, which was fine.
Okay.
But what it taught me, a lot of the stuff that I started working on at the time, I had an acoustic, and I still have this acoustic K guitar. I converted it to a 2-string slide bass because the action's so high and the neck is a little warped, so I turned it into this acoustic K slide bass guitar. And I found myself playing a lot more acoustically during last summer. Yes, I had all of my electric guitar set up and all those things, and I did practice that way too, but it created a feeling of intimacy to myself, just to really get down to the rudimentary way of just playing an acoustic instrument, because I admire all of these historical blues players who would have resonator guitars or acoustic guitars, and that's all they had because
Right.
technologically that's all they had. So I really wanted to access that feeling of isolation and just a desperation to express something acoustically. And it taught me so much about my electric playing as well too. Just feeling the resonance of an actual acoustic bass right near your chest and core just helped my playing and just taught me
Neat.
much more about myself. So most of the stuff on the album, LoLo House, was written acoustically first.
Okay.
And then converted to either two-string bass or on one song that's resonator guitar as well too. But I also last summer bought a resonator guitar, a little parlor size one that I wrote. The one that comes to mind in particular is Curb My Appetite.
Right.
That was written solely on the resonator first, and then I converted it to a two-string
So
thing.
educate me. What is a resonator guitar?
They were invented, I believe, in the early 1920s when the rise of big band and jazz started happening. They wanted to make a guitar that could be heard. So they made these metal, brass, or steel guitars, and they would put these cones. And this one's a single cone guitar, and the cone is like a little speaker in the sense. So it resonates that way. So that's what a resonator guitar is. Like you see them, like they're steel guitars, like some of them they play lap steel.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I did more further research as well too, and they originated in Hawaii actually. So that style of playing, actually, with like if I'm talking lap steel, where you lay it flat on your lap,
Right.
and I don't play this way, but other players do, and you use a metal bar that you put between your fingers, and you use that to make the notes.
Oh, yeah. Right.
That originated in Hawaii. That whole surf sound, that Hawaiian sound that we're used to, that hula sound, and
Yes.
etc. There's a statue of the man who invented this style of playing. He was walking along the train tracks in Hawaii. He was a little boy, and he found a rail, like, tack, the things they hammer the railroads into the wood, and he went to his wood shop in middle school and metal shop, and he started making these slides. And that's how the sound started. So
Wow.
yeah, it's just great. I just love doing research, and that's it in a nutshell. It's a lot more nuanced than that, but like just finding these connections and reaffirming myself that like it comes from a long lineage and heritage of people using metal on metal to make resonating sounds and slide and things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really cool last summer to really do all that research. Yeah,
And
so that's what a resonator
Kind of
guitar
gives
is.
it the origin story.
It does.
And it's cool to know that as you're working with those
Right.
instruments.
I did the Keith Richards approach, which Keith Richards famously plays an open G, and he took off the 6th string on his guitar, and so he plays a 5 string, and he tunes it to open G. So I approached the resonator and still approach it in that regard too. It's a really fun tuning because it's an open tuning, so it's just so musical that in a way you can kind of not really hit a wrong note. You can, and it'll tell you right away. That's another thing that I like about acoustic instruments is you're so vulnerable in the sense of like you can't hide behind effects, or fuzz or things like that. And it's not necessarily hiding, it's just a pure tone.
Yeah.
So the resonator really teaches me, I was working on playing with it last night, just all about touch and feel. It'll tell you right away. It informs you immediately, and especially in that tuning. And most slide players play in open tunings just because they're so musical. And
Yes.
I love that. So
As years go by, I'm a music lover of just about any genre, and I'm always blown away about the different sounds that people can get
Yeah.
out of different guitars or the same guitar.
Right.
And I'm just like, wow. And that, what was it called? Reverberating, or what kind of
resonator guitar?
resonator?
Yeah.
It sounds like
Yeah.
it's named for, giving you feedback.
Definitely.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. So I want to revisit the effect of place on your
Yes.
art. But first, are your parents musical?
My mother is a drummer.
Oh.
She's drummed for me many a time, and she's helped me write a lot of my original works, like I Like to Please, which is on the EP, the first EP that I released, A Whole New Low, and also Is It Too Much to Ask. So she drums. She's a percussive person. She plays drums for me, and she sings. She sings as well. And my dad is a music connoisseur, and both of them have definitely informed me with the musical tastes, like The Doors in particular with my dad, and Led Zeppelin with my mom. And
All right.
yeah, and they've always been people that I've looked to for musical inspiration.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear that. Some people don't like to talk about their folks, but
Oh, they're everything for me.
Same
Yeah.
here. And a lot of our previous guests have said the same thing, and that always makes me feel good, I guess, as a parent myself. I would hope
for sure.
there's some positive things that we connect with our kids
Most
about.
definitely.
Okay, so back to place. You were kind of displaced on purpose up in
Yes.
Breckenridge. So did you reflect on your home while you were up there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so the day before I moved all my equipment and myself to Breckenridge, my dog passed away.
Oh.
He started having seizures, and they had to take him in, and he wouldn't stop, and they had to put him down. So there was that. And then it's like, okay, now I got to go up to Breckenridge. And I thought it was some sort of sign. And then my dad was scheduled last summer to do double knee replacement surgery.
Right.
And I knew I wouldn't really be around as much as I'd like to be for that. And that was a challenge as well, too. So living with that, being separate from it, and yet still so close. I'm still in Colorado.
Yeah.
But I don't drive
You
at the
don't?
moment currently. So I had to depend on other people for transportation, and also just being, like I said, about an hour away, but it felt so far away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the title of the album is LoLo House. So house and a home was a huge part of the genre of this, is like being in a place. And like, I like that you said displaced on purpose, because it was on purpose. Yeah. It was definitely like, I want to transport myself somewhere else, because all the albums that I've admired, that's what they would do. They would make makeshift studios and create these incredibly iconic albums. I mean, the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin are two of the ones that come to mind for me, as well as the White Stripes. I believe their second album they recorded in their living room.
Wow.
So I wanted to have that experience, and I'm really glad I did that. But yeah, the home and the house and my folks definitely were on my mind pretty consistently, just as another reflecting point, because it was either my music and myself, or reflecting on whom I was not around, because it was one of the first summers that I was gone for that long from everyone. So, and it's interesting because there was an article that Westward did, which was a wonderful article about the experience as well too, but a lot of people interpreted it as I was homesick or sad or like felt really alone, but I did that on purpose, because now that this is the second summer, it's been a year ago, roughly around this time that I was up there, I look at my parents in summertime now, and I appreciate it so much more, because I remember, and I miss certain aspects of Breckenridge,
Sure.
but now I can come back to Denver and see and experience summertime in a different light. It's like a whole different perspective, and I love that about going away from a place and coming back to it and revisiting it and seeing how you fit within that context.
Makes you more aware.
Yeah, exactly.
I write about that a lot in my book. Left because I thought I needed to help myself grow.
Sure.
I didn't really want to, I don't think, but I made myself go, and I was gone for 2 years. But boy, did I was ready to come back.
Yeah.
I'm a Colorado person.
Right. I didn't think I would get the residency. I didn't think I was going to get it. And then I got it in October. And that's kind of another conversation as well, too, which I will respectfully discuss as well, too, as I have bandmates that I was working with prior to this that are not on this album.
Okay.
And I had told them about a little bit less than a year in advance about this opportunity. And they seemed very eager about it as well too, but then once that 2024 came up, summertime, they were not available.
Okay.
So I found myself in a position of like, well, do I make a solo album where like I'd have to do everything, which I didn't want to do,
right?
But luckily, Brett Batterman, who had recorded and worked with us, the other band that I had for the EP, he expressed interest in drumming, and I was like, okay, great. And he came up, and I think it was only about 2 weekends that he came up.
To your residency.
Yeah, to lay down the drums. And
nice.
Then we kind of worked throughout the summer building off of those, the ground floor, which is bass and drums for us, and particularly this project and this sound. So that was another thing.
Yeah.
Is I went into this residency thinking I was going to make this one album with these people. Those people weren't available, so I had to make this choice. And then that was another shift in perspective, because the musicians that are on this, I couldn't be more grateful that all the timing worked out. I mean, Doug Carmichael is an incredible saxophonist. He on this album, he's playing baritone, tenor, and alto. And he's harmonizing.
The baritone.
Yeah, and he's harmonizing to
yeah.
himself. And he also is in a Morphine cover band. So he understands Dana Colley's feel and interpretation. It's not copying, it's just understanding the formula that is low rock. And then, my other mentor and friend, Brian Billings, he was in technical theater, and he passed away, and his brother is on this album.
Oh.
So he plays the harmonica and the lap steel on this as well, too. And I remember Brian would always talk, his brother's name is Brett, so there's two Bretts.
Oh, my goodness.
Two Bretts with one T on this album, Brett Batterman and Brett Billings. And he would always talk about, his incredible musician brother, Brian Wood. And I always thought in the back of my head, it'd be really cool to work with him. And he came up and he laid down harmonica. And again, he's an experienced blues player, plays in a lot of group bluegrass bands. And he was a teacher for Swallow Hill. He's an incredible slide guitarist and lap steel. He's just a bluesman.
Yeah.
And he's open for ZZ Top and all these things. So, and then Brett Batterman is an incredible sound engineer and really good rudimentary blues jazz drummer as well too. And then I had Cortland Carpenter, who is an accomplished cellist, string player, laid down cello for Promise, the song. And then I had my friend, who's a guitarist and a guitar instructor for Guitar Center, Aston Lopez, on it as well too. So everything just so naturally fell into place.
Oh, good.
And so it was nice just to see that contrast and just to understand whom the people brought me to that point. I couldn't be happier with the way it sounds. So,
and it looks snazzy too.
Yeah, that's thanks to Todd Pearson and his photography. And he came up one weekend, and I already had the concept drawn out, and he really likes, most of the people I work with, all the people I work with really admire that I don't like to waste anybody's time.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is what I'd like. You can put your 2 cents in or more than 2 cents in, and we can make something together. And collaboration's a beautiful thing when everybody understands their roles and is happy to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm so grateful with all these musicians, and I will always eternally be grateful to all of them. So.
Oh, it sounds great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you play out anymore?
I do. That's the thing, is that Doug Carmichael is such a great saxophonist that he's in like 20 different bands. So he told me right off the bat after it was done recording, like, I had a lot of fun recording it. Right now, I just can't commit to playing with you live. So I'm working currently with a baritone player named Garrett, and we're trying to work up these tunes to play them live.
Okay.
The first show we have is going to be June 27th at the Pearl, also known as the Mercury Cafe.
Oh, right.
For a Pride show. And then we have one at High Dive, August 21st on a Thursday. So yeah, we are slowly getting back out there, but it's kind of like rebuilding the ship. Like, this is the reference point. The album itself is like, I tell Garrett and anyone who wants to be a part of it, you don't need to play exactly like these players, but you need to understand the feel of it too. And it's more challenging than I realize. I think then I realize. Now I realize it's not necessarily that the music itself is complex. It's just finding your part and understanding the groove. And once everything fits together, it sounds like LoLo House. It sounds like low rock. It sounds like Cipriano.
Yeah, those challenges can feed into the creative process, I suppose, as challenging as they can be and frustrating sometimes. But, But those challenges help us grow.
They do. Yeah, and I think regardless, like, I wish everybody the best, truly and authentically, and everybody, we've all learned something from each other, and life keeps going, and sometimes people grow apart and then they come back together. So I just want to state that I never want to sound like I speak in finalities. So
it's an ebb and flow.
Yeah, it all worked out, and I've learned a lot, and I learn something sometimes new every day.
Right?
So,
yeah, but I think that keeps us keeps our brain fresh and keeps us younger.
And I just really believe in being humble and having good humility and just always striving for the best and trying to make things that you feel good about leaving behind, quite honestly. That's
Absolutely.
always my thing, is like, I love playing out, and the music industry is very complex, and there's so many things to entertain us nowadays that I have to redefine my definition of success to myself. And what I always say, it may sound tragic to some or not, but for me is like, if I'm long gone, I want some, person to pick this up on a dusty shelf, the CD itself, and find a vintage CD player and put it on, and then I'm alive again.
Absolutely.
So anytime I hear all these, blues musicians that are long gone, like Robert Johnson, for instance, I put him on, he's right there with me, because that's the beauty of recording sound and music, is that you're etching yourself into the physical frame of time.
Yeah.
And your physical representation is still there once you're long gone. So
I love that.
yeah. And I mean, again, it's a frequency that's moving through the air. Right. So like versus like a painting, and I love painting. I paint, and I know many artists, and that hangs on a wall or a museum, and that can stay alive as well in its own way. But with music, again, you physically have to pick it up. You have to open it, take out the disc or the vinyl, put it on the player or hit play. You're physically handling me still. So that's kind of my hope.
That's how I prefer to
Yeah,
do it. I don't know if you see, I resurrected my old turntable over there.
Great. I like it.
I'm enjoying the heck out of that. Get my old records out.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think for me, success is just having the opportunity to and the time to make something, and to make it the way you'd like it to.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what this debut album really taught me. And I think all those years of working with everybody I have obviously led up to this point. And this is the archived, instance of it. And that's LoLo House.
In this moment.
So, yeah.
So you mentioned your painting. You're definitely a multifaceted artist.
Yeah.
You do almost everything. Have you?
I mean, I've grown up around it. Both my
Right.
parents are painters and visual artists. And I've exhibited a lot more now recently. And I worked on a painting last summer that has been on exhibit in a couple different places and different shows. The most recent one was Nepantla, that my father put together and curated, that was at the Fort Collins Museum of Art. So I don't paint as much as I'd like to, but at the moment do maybe like one painting a year.
Oh, really?
It takes months for me to really plan out, or years sometimes. Some of these photos that I've taken that I use for paintings as reference, I sit on them until I really feel the motivation to just, it's time.
Right.
And I think, obviously I could refine that more if that was my main focus, but music is my main driving focus as well too. But yes, I love to paint. And the current series I'm working on is called Beautiful Machismo. Mm-hmm. And it's just really embracing the idea of seeing, manliness and being macho in a refined, beautiful way, and just trying to embrace that and seeing that as empowering, and dissecting the nuances and complexities of it, but also not shutting it down, and really trying to show people the beautiful side of that.
I love it. I do see a little of your dad's style.
Yeah,
in
for
there,
sure.
right?
Definitely with the palette.
Yeah.
He's taught me so much and still teaches me so much directly and indirectly about color. And so does my mother in terms of layout and design. All those elements have always been with me. And again, I approach recording music in a very similar way of like, it's a sonic painting. It's a sonic stage. And how you set that up and where you put frequencies, I see them as colors or as vignettes or as cinematic things. And I think both martial arts and painting and theater have really taught me how to be a musician.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's been great just to see how everything's connected. I mean, everybody says that all the time, but it really is.
Well,
if you see it and put it together.
You have to pay attention.
Yeah.
And so are you kind of referring to the layers, I might say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. A lot. I mean, how me and my father talk about music production because he's unfamiliar with it, and also my mother as well too. Like I remember she would sometimes get on me because I order things, online and music gear, and I see a guitar pedal or whatever, and I'm like, I'm gonna get this.
Yeah.
And usually 90% of the time I know why I'm gonna get it, and sometimes they don't work, but most of the time they work. But she was kind of getting on me. She's like, son, what do why are you buying all this stuff? And she finally got it when I told her, like, look, it's like a color on a palette.
Yeah.
This gives me something sonically that I want within a frequency to use. Gotcha. And then I think she finally got it. And then with my father too, I think he got it as well too, of like, the explanation of layers
Yeah.
and composition and, laying that out and drafting something and then building it, up to its final version.
It's not just one thing.
No, it's many moving parts. And
Yeah.
again, I think that's what theater taught me as well too. It's not just the actors, it's the script. It's not just the script. It's the director. It's not just the director. It's the producer. It's not just the producer. It's the theater. I mean, I could go on and on and on.
Right.
It's a collaborative effort in that way as well too. So understanding that within making music makes it a lot more approachable, at least for me. Sometimes it's overwhelming, but most of the time it's like, okay, what are we going to do?
Right.
What microphones are we going to use? What amps are we going to use? What guitar are we going to use? What kind of pickup is in the guitar? Again, it's all, coloration.
Yeah.
So,
Coloration.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Another thing you do is, I know you produced a play last year.
yes, that's right.
Was writing a play new thing for you?
In the sense of actually given the opportunity to do so, yes. Okay. I mean, the show Cheyenne, which was, last year in May, started off as a Metro college assignment for a drama class I took in about 2014. And it was like, write a 10-minute one act. And I went through a grueling breakup with this person. And so I wrote it about this artist in the 90s who's going through a breakup and is also working on a painting and a commission for somebody, and then he kills himself.
Oh, of course.
So that was the young 20-year-old version of it. And I sat on it for a while, and I'm glad I did it. And then I was invited by some people, local theater people, when they were doing some stuff at the Mercury Cafe. And they're like, well, do you have anything that you've worked on? I'm like, well, I have this little script that I worked on. So I developed it further. And at that time, my grandfather had recently passed. That would be 2020, actually. And I was watching my mother go through that grieving process, watching myself, watching my grandfather, going through dementia and dying, essentially. And so then I developed the idea and further of like, well, what if it's about a woman whose father had already passed and she's working on this painting with her boyfriend and they're working on a commission. So it was that iteration of it. Right. Then it became the idea of like, what if the father character isn't dead? What if he is dying from dementia?
Yeah.
So then I had, we have the art dealer, Lisa, we have the boyfriend, Rodrigo, we have the father figure, Frank, and we have the female artist, Cheyenne. So a cast of 4, taking place in a 1-bedroom apartment, not really anywhere. I wanted to set it, it could be anywhere, but it's, these artists that are generally, Cheyenne, I wanted to design the character was a little more established. Rodrigo, they're together and he's using her to level up.
Yeah.
And they do this collaboration together. And there's a lot of conflict within that because there's artistic differences. They both see identity within their art very differently as well too.
Right.
And then we have the character Frank, who has moments of he's coherent and there's moments where he's not. He forgets where he is or who he's talking to. So there's a lot of elements.
Yep.
So that's where the play came to be. And so it was a 10-year process of doing that. And I also want to do a shout out because I recently revisited The Sopranos again, the television show.
Yeah.
I forget how much old age and dying and dementia are a huge part of that show.
Yeah.
There's 2 main characters who suffer from dementia that make choices in a mob-style lifestyle that have grave consequences to the other characters.
Right.
And I think when I was working on it, I think subconsciously that was also an influence as well, too, of just seeing the tragedy of life and aging and also putting it in the creative lens of how creative people are affected by that. Because the character Frank, again, is based off of my grandfather, Frank, who lived in the Northside as well, too, right near where Elitch Gardens used to be. My mom used to go there all the time as a kid. He was a very creative person. He was a musician in his own right. He could play by ear. He loved so much in terms of he could draw and he could paint, but never was given the opportunities to pursue that. Didn't, had an 8th grade education and just had to work. He worked 3 jobs and he was in the military. So I designed the character Frank a little bit off of my grandfather, but also made this character in the play. He was a house painter. So he was an artist before he had Cheyenne,
Okay.
but he had to make the choice as a single parent to become a house painter. So he let that kind of fall by the wayside. And I just, wanted to throw in all these different elements. And I think that's why a lot of people, the biggest thing that they said after they saw the play was that it was just too real.
Oh.
And for me, that's great because
I think that's a compliment.
and then I designed the show where, they're working on this painting, but the audience never sees it. The painting is always
Right.
turned away from the audience. So during intermission, I made the choice. The actors don't leave during intermission. They're going to stay in the apartment because they're stuck there.
Oh.
So people were trying to walk up to see the painting, but we were there as the actors, so they were a little bit more intimidated to go up, but a couple people still took a peek. I like that idea of the painting is Rodrigo and Cheyenne's child.
Yes.
And they're tending to this together, but one's taking over the other things. So this power dynamic, this gender dynamic, this race dynamic. And obviously it's all reflected on how I feel as an individual and as an artist as well too, but also above and beyond me, because as a writing instructor and as an artist, speaking just as a writer and a creative person, I always say draw from your own personal experiences. But for me, I like to branch off and make them more nuanced and use some fictional elements so it's not as directed to me. So I can put it on a wall in my mind or physically or on a stage. And yes, there's a lot of parts of me in it, but it's not me.
Okay.
And I think that's another thing that a lot of people observed with this show, because I decided to cast myself as Rodrigo for the first iteration of it. A lot of people walked away thinking that I was like Rodrigo.
Yeah.
And I'm not. I'm not that character. So it's interesting, even people who are actors who play pretend and put on roles saw me as in a certain way as well too. So I'm always playing without choice sometimes on how I'm being seen.
Right.
And I think since I've been in theater so early and at an early age when I was a little boy, even before going into actual theater, going outside as an only child, putting on costumes and pretending only with my own mind, it just has always been fascinating on like how one is perceived, and I think it's always an element to explore as a creative person and just as an individual, as a human being in general.
Absolutely.
And realizing we're not bound to anything. That just
You've got
and
so
I'm
many
some-
different
yeah.
voices.
Yeah, so it's interesting in that way. So
Is there a struggle between having those different, obviously, perceptions from the outside versus how you see yourself? Do you ever want people to see who you see yourself as?
I think at this point, I try to bring my most authentic self and truthful self to every situation, every relationship I'm involved with, because it's so much less work than trying to put on a persona. I'm trying to meet people where they're at,
Yeah.
and realizing, and again, it's a frequency, it's a relationship, it's a rhythm. And if I'm working for these people or with these people, I need to figure out that rhythm for us to put on a production or to make a band happen. But interpersonal relationships are a little bit more nuanced, but it's the same approach, is just trying to just figure out how I fit in. And if I don't, then that's okay too. I think that's the bigger thing too, is like realizing, well, maybe this isn't for the best.
Yeah.
And obviously that means a lot of vulnerability at times, a lot of sensitivity, but being raised, as a cis man or being seen as a man, and I am a man, there's also that layer as well too, of like, well, don't show your emotions, or don't, and I can't. I just, and I don't want to, because I feel, because I have a lot of in my early 20s and in my life buried things. And that's a whole nother story as well too, because when I did that, I lost my voice for 5 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Physically living in that kind of lifestyle, it suppressed so much that a physical action that became a handicap happened. Obviously there were other elements to it, but that was the biggest thing, was like I physically lost my voice because I wasn't voicing
Right.
how I was feeling. So once I gained my voice back, and it started in 2014, and it wasn't until 2019 that I actually could even sing. So I always forget about that, because I feel so beyond that, but there's still moments where I'm humbled by that as well too. So getting that second chance and being reborn in that way, I think has really shown me how and what I want to get out of life as well too.
Which is so important. I'm so glad you got your voice back.
Yeah, me too.
That would have been a bummer if you didn't.
It was a long process, but I'm really glad to be on the other side of it.
Did you
for
just
sure.
work through that yourself, or did you?
No,
have
I
any help?
had A lot of different voice pathologists, did a lot of different scopes, saw a lot of different experts. Then I worked with a couple different voice therapists and physical therapists, and finally relearned how to speak, essentially, and how to reset my neck muscles, my laryngeal muscles, and my jaw muscles, and everything within my body to learn how to talk again and sing again too. So,
So there's a metaphor there with the physically not being able to sing and being stifled, it sounds like to me.
And what was great about that time period, though, is that I really got more into production, and namely into guitar tone. So I was like, well, I can't really sing, but I can still play your instruments. And I remember I have this journal in that time, and it's full of production notes. It's full of like how to record guitar, different tunings, different type of pickups. So I look at that. I look to myself, my older self in that time period, or younger self, I should say, felt older, and just realizing I was still working.
Oh, yeah.
I still had this drive and this desire to make music.
You needed
and I remember promising myself, like, if I got through that, I would pursue making music and just be grateful for that opportunity. And again, saying that even now in this moment, I still have to remind myself of that, because again, I don't know why I'm going back to The Sopranos, but like, I think it's the end of the fifth season where Tony Soprano gets shot by his dementiated uncle, and he almost dies. And the writers are so clever because they do this whole thing of like, well, Tony survives and he's out of the hospital, and he looks to his sister and he says, every day is a gift. And so he tries to live in that mindset. But again, he's in the mob and he's Tony Soprano.
Right.
So it's life slowly creeps back in, and you get back into your rhythms, and you forget you were given a second chance. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. But like, I saw that, I finished the show recently, and I was reminded of that, of like, oh, I remember those days. And I miss those days, and I can still bring those days within me still.
Oh, yeah.
But again, it's interesting. I don't want to lie too much in the victimhood mentality either, because I just don't like feeling stagnant. Because when I start feeling stagnant is when I have either too much time on my hands or I'm not outputting something. Because live with my folks and have been with my folks, and I'm around other people that are creative types, that they're always doing something.
Yeah.
My dad, has had his hip replacement surgery a couple weeks back, and a couple days after, he was already back to painting.
Oh, look at that.
Back to working, because I don't know if there's much else.
Yeah.
At least for people like me and my genes and my genetics. I don't mind relaxing. I don't mind just sitting on the beach in Hawaii sometimes, but I like to work.
That's a certain kind of person. I had a horrible accident a couple of years ago. I couldn't walk for 5 months, but my mom would come over, and she's creative as well, and saw that I was a bit of at a loss, because I'm not somebody who likes to just sit around, and she's like, you got to find something to do that you can do. There was not so much I could do, but I ended up watercoloring, and that gave me a purpose every day, and gave me, and then that grew into other things, and thank goodness, and not everybody is like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And on that note of when we were talking about identity, or just how we see ourselves, it occurred to me when you were speaking about it that we are kind of different with depending on different situations, different. We're always ourselves, but different things come out in different situations.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I have a girlfriend that's always in charge. So I kind of sit back and let her be in charge.
Right.
Whereas when I'm with my dear husband, I need to be in charge.
Right.
He's not. So it's okay, and I can do both.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
Each one is fine. But
yeah, that's good to know those different perspectives.
Yeah.
And I think, as a writer and designing characters, it's good to know how they fit in those narratives. So it's fascinating just to approach life in the same way, like using yourself as a character study and just giving yourself opportunities just to observe oneself, and also try not to judge yourself too much and be like, oh, that's interesting, just to see what comes up psychologically for yourself, and certain things you think you may have put on the shelf and you're okay with, and they come back and you're like, oh, I guess I wasn't okay with that.
Right.
So, and just being kind to yourself. I mean, it's hard for me to be kind to myself at times, in the sense of, I just really very calculative. I'm a very calculative person. I really take my time on things, and I really like to do my research. but it's hard to do research on life completely when you're living it.
Right.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
To have all the time.
Right. And I think for me too, like I am a teacher and a facilitator for a lot of different populations, but the main population that I connect with the most is the elderly population, so older people. And I don't even like using the word older people, just more people have lived longer than I have is how I say it. And just seeing how they conducted their lives and live within their worlds and their stories and experiences, and they just inform me with their wisdom as well too. So I think, because even as a child, my closest friends and caretakers when I was a boy were my aunt and my grandmother. They were my first socializing people that I knew beyond my parents as a little kid. So one of the first things I ever built out of Tinker Toys was a walker.
Oh,
Because my grandmother had a walker, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool looking. Or I built like a little cane because they had canes and walkers.
That's what you were around.
So I was reflecting that. I think there's always been this element of age and death, and I don't say that in a bad way. It's just the way it was. So from that point, I've studied a lot of Eastern philosophies, and the number one thing that I was attracted to the most was Japanese Bushido, which the whole samurai approach of living is obsessed with death and how one dies. How one lives conducts how one dies, and the warrior concept and etc. I have Apache warrior blood on my mother's side, so finding those nuanced connections and just living with the idea of knowing that you're going to die every day, for me, helps me.
okay.
For some people, Western thought, it may be morbid or not, or however one interprets it. I understand it's not everybody's cup of tea, but that's just how I live.
Well, I
So-
would assume it reminds you to make the most of it.
Yeah.
Right?
And for me, making the most of it is being gracious that I have the time in my physical body to make music.
Right.
So right now that's always my number one choice. I remember working on this other show that I just finished up at the shout out to the Savoy and Theater Artibus. His name's Booba, and he's one of the co-executive people there. And he walked up to me one time before rehearsal, and he's like, "Do you have something that you could do all the time?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And he was like, "Well, let me finish." And he kept going on about passions. And I looked at him. I said, "Yeah, my music." He's like, "Oh, good. I'm glad you have that in your life." But it was just nice to just hear someone else, because his passion's theater. His passion is making, and some of my passion is within theater, and I enjoy theater very much. But it's just a different beast. It's a different animal.
Right.
And I love it in bursts. And I love all the Denver community. The theater community is incredibly supportive. They're amazing people within that, and I'm so gracious to work with them every time I do. And this last show I did, quite honestly, was life-changing in its own way.
Oh,
And I
really?
learned a lot about myself. So,
Do you mean your play?
my play, but also the one that I just recently did, which was called The Sala Project through Theater Artibus, which was a docu-theater show about historical Curtis Park neighborhood, and particularly the Latino population. And so they interviewed a lot of people from that area, and the director, Lisa Garcia, she put together a show and
Neat.
made characters for it, and I did the set design and stage management and sound and some props as well too. So it was a good process.
Yeah,
So-
no, that sounds really cool. I'll have
Yeah.
to check that out. So that makes me think of how things have changed in our city.
Yes.
What are your feelings about pros and cons of the changes?
I mean, that was what the show I just talked about was
Yeah.
about, was gentrification.
Yeah.
There used to be so many little grocery stores in historic Curtis Park neighborhood. I live around there. So it was nice to know more history behind it.
Yeah.
And obviously I also live in the north side as well too. And my grandfather's house where my mother was raised is gone.
Oh, wow.
It was scraped completely.
Gosh.
And there's this fancy new modern house there. And then my friend Brian, who I mentioned, which Brett Billings' brother, his house, which I used to help him build props and set pieces and such. He used to live there with his 2 cats, and that's gone.
Yeah.
So it's physical space and, materials put together in a plot of land, and we live in those areas, and now they're gone, and I think about anytime I visit my studio, I should say, I look at all my gear and all my guitars, and I'm like, none of this is really mine. It is in the moment,
Yeah.
but once my physical shell is gone, these little physical shells are there. And he transposed that to, the north side and the neighborhoods. And then I put in capitalism and, people moving here because of global warming or climate change, regardless of what people are saying. I think that's a big motivating factor. And seeing Denver make all these apartment buildings, and it's just responsive, and I get it on the political side of it or the agenda of it, but it's just sad to see all the little nuanced and charms of what Denver used to be like. I miss that a lot.
I struggle greatly with that, and I try to be as neutral as possible. I remember Westward doing a story about the last affordable, affordable
right.
house. It's such a dichotomy.
Well, that's the biggest strife
right?
or grief I have with the current situation is all these new apartment buildings, and they're all like $2,600 a month or whatever. It's just doesn't make feasible sense to me, versus because like Morphine is the biggest influence with my band and with this album LoLo House. And I go back to Morphine because, they were all in Boston. And during the 90s, there was a rent freeze.
Oh.
So people could not raise the rent in a certain. So Mark Sandman of Morphine, the vocalist and 2-string slide bassist, had this huge loft. He called it the High and Dry Studio, and it was his apartment, but also a studio. So it was a place where people would gather and make music. And obviously they didn't have the internet back then, but my point is time, I think, and resources were much different back then. And I think that's where some envy and jealousy happens, because I wish that was the case for me. But I still obviously have my own studio in my community as well too, but it's just different because it's a different era.
Well, it's very expensive. My very first segment was with Joe DeRose. Do you remember hearing about a coffee house called Muddy's? He was the founder of that.
Oh.
We chatted about how he was so able to do that because rent was cheap.
Yeah.
So they could be welcoming to anyone. And
Mm-hmm.
and we were kind of frustrated that there's not as many places where you can welcome just about anyone.
Exactly.
They can hang out as long as they want.
Yeah.
Because the rent's so high, people have got to turn tables.
Yeah, time is money and all that. Yeah.
But, they had a rent freeze in Boston. Why can't we do stuff like that? I don't know.
Maybe it'll happen, to think positive for sure. But it's this bigger, more menacing presence, regardless of who or what side you may perceive to be on. The simple fact of the matter is, I think the powers that be are just intimidated by the uncontrollable elements of art and community and creativity. I think being creative is an act of revolution and within itself, just to change. You can change people's perspectives. You can create a music revolution. You can create so much just from making art.
Yeah.
And I think their response to that is just to make things so impossible
Harder.
to make community gatherings or make art or have the time to even think creatively, because I see so many people who want to be, but they're so exhausted from the multiple jobs they're doing.
Right.
So take note of not just doing one job, they're doing multiple jobs, including myself.
Yeah.
And just at the point of being done with the day, you just want to veg out and watch TV.
You need time and space.
Yeah,
to be
and
able
you
to
need time to cultivate yourself and understand yourself and spiritual exploration. And they just don't want to give us that time.
Yeah.
And, whoever they are.
I know.
It's,
who to blame.
So, yeah.
That has been a theme, and this is my third segment.
Yeah.
And we were talking about with Joe about whether we took part in the group protests earlier, and we both agreed that wasn't our thing.
Yeah.
But that's not the only way to make a difference.
Yeah.
Clearly, art, storytelling, having a place where people can come and everybody's welcome for civil discourse,
Yeah.
At least we can try to still do those things and encourage other people to, however we can.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a bit of a tragedy to lose. I feel like we're losing character, charm, history.
Yeah.
For sure.
Definitely. But you look at Detroit and similar kind of situation as well too. I just remember watching Apple TV interview with Jack White, and he's going around to all these areas that were, his original studio, or where I think it's called the Gold Dollar. It was a bar and venue where the White Stripes played a lot, and it's all gone too.
Wow.
So it's not just here.
No. Yeah.
But again, that doesn't excuse it either way. It's just, I think, part of the industry of capitalism and just living in America and just this illusion or desire for progress and development and
Well, and I think
growing population and whatever.
Our population is distracted, perhaps a little
Yeah.
bit, with too many ways to get information,
Yeah.
so that to distill it is almost impossible.
Right.
To find out.
And also,
things.
to have the time to distill it,
Yeah.
the time to step away from whatever you may perceive as your reality. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting time.
Yeah.
Wow. I turned it on.
Oh, yeah, no worries.
So
yeah.
we're listening to Cipriano with his...
Just messing about. Yeah, how does it sound through the mic?
It
I'm
sounds
curious.
really cool.
That's
to
cool,
me.
yeah. So I'm still refining this little acoustic guitar, but I bought, this is it's called a Chris guitar. And actually one of my favorite things to do is with my friend Matt Jaramillo, and he has a studio just over here where the chapel, this church over here.
Oh.
He works at Regis,
Yeah.
and he's a security guard there, but he's also an accomplished drummer and one of my very closest friends. And the thing we do, our boys' night out, is we go to Bardo. We talk music and life and etc. And then we go to the Brass Armadillo.
Oh.
And some of the drums that you hear on LoLo House are from Brass Armadillo.
Which, if people don't know what
Yeah,
that is,
brass. Yeah, go ahead.
giant antique store.
Giant antique store. It's huge.
You get lost in for
So
days.
I found this little Chris guitar with its case. They wanted like $200 or something. I was like, I'm gonna pay $200. And finally it went down to, I think, 70, and then it was like 15% off that day. So I think I got it for like $40 or something.
Nice.
So most of the gear that I put on this thing is more expensive than the actual guitar.
Okay.
But what's so great is it had good bones. And I had a pickup, and I had this different tailpiece from another guitar. And again, thanks to Scott Lofquist, we put this together, and now that's where it's at. And I wanted to make another little 2-string guitar. You can see this one's very tiny. It's a parlor-sized guitar into a bass thing.
Yeah.
But for travel and for things, and just
Okay.
just a quick open mic night stuff, because taking my whole rig is a little bit more challenging.
Okay.
But again, because of the Breckenridge residency, playing acoustically really informed me a lot as a player, and I just want to pursue that more and more, and really always stripping back as much as I can and seeing what sticks. And I did another podcast, and they brought up the idea and talked about White Stripes and Morphine as well too, and you're like, if Morphine was in the 20s. And I was like, yes, you got it. And the next album, hopefully, is going to be a lot more 20s influenced in terms of
Okay.
its sound and big band and
Wow.
a lot of different influences. But that's hopefully going to be the sophomore album, which, as everyone says, I don't know if it'll be true, but it's starting to feel that way, is the most challenging. Because I wouldn't say that LoLo House was off the cuff, but it came so naturally. And if anything, in terms of creative output, has taught me in life is that the next one may not be so easy. And I'm ready for that too.
Right.
So I don't know.
It's
I'm
like
not
your
trying
second
to
novel.
Yeah, it's not exactly. I'm not trying to put any negativity towards it, but I'm kind of looking forward to the complexity and more, different guitar usage and layering of guitars and just fleshing it out. Because I saw the Black Keys not too long ago, last Tuesday, in fact, at Red Rocks, and they were originally a 2-piece as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But now they have, auxiliary percussionist, they have another rhythm guitarist, they have a bassist, they have a keyboardist. Same with Jack White. Jack White, obviously the White Stripes was a duo.
Yeah.
And obviously in the album versions of their songs, they had other musicians. But now you see Jack White, and he has a very similar lineup. And now I'm in the place of understanding why lead, musicians and singer-songwriters do that, is because it's a lot of pressure to be the only sole rhythm section
Okay.
and the singer
Right.
and the performer. And I really kind of want to put together an auxiliary band for the album, but hopefully also live, just to take a little more pressure off of me. And I'm not saying that the pressure is bad, but like a little more freedom,
Well,
because
different pressure then.
exactly. And now I'm finding I have musicians that want to play this style of music, which is low rock. And what's so interesting is I'm asking a lot from this little guitar, because it's not a traditional bass frequency, because a bass frequency, the guitars sit on the higher end of the frequency. So the bass sits in the pocket or the groove point, because it's a lead bass, is what my friend Aston kind of so poignantly said. Being consistent and rhythmic in a bass approach, but also kind of loose as a guitarist, because there's a lot of swing to my stuff, but you need to have a consistency with that. So there's a lot of funk influence. So I'm asking a lot from this little guitar and any guitar that I work with. Yeah. So.
Wow. It's very deep and substantial. And I really like it. I'm dying to kind of see you play live with a band. I hope that comes going. I imagine you walking to that music.
Well, that's the thing. It's amazing that you say that, because like another band that's been very influential for me has been Tool.
Oh.
And Maynard James Keenan and Justin Chancellor, all the interviews that I've read and heard from them, they talk about how they write things when they're walking. So it's funny that you say that. I think that's the beauty of the blues for me, is just, just that nice shuffle feel, or that just, it makes you want to move, and I think the biggest compliment for me is when we play out live is you can't make people dance. Right. You can tell people, get up and clap your hands or whatever, and they may for like a couple minutes, but if they really dig it, they're going to be moving and dancing. They can't help it. Right. And every time I see people in the audience too, that I'm like, it's the biggest compliment you can give us is that you're moving.
I think so. I'm often one of those people. I'm sorry, excuse me. I got to go dance.
Yeah, totally.
Make a fool of myself. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
So I got to ask you about Jeannie.
Yeah.
I've listened to it a couple times because I was curious. In the article in the North Star, you had said that it was inspired by your walks. So Jeannie in the lamplight, is that like a genie?
I really can't give the straight answer to it, because I really don't know, because I also read Keith Richards' biography, and I really like what he says is that I've heard other musicians say it, it's like songs kind of exist, and they live in this ether, and they come to you, and you either want to get up at 3 a.m. to record an idea of it, or you ignore it, and it'll move on to someone else. Yeah. So I don't know where it came from. I think, just playing with the elements of light and the limelight and the lamplight and nightlife. The number one word in this album, LoLo House, is night. I remember sitting down, putting on listing out the track list and listening to the songs. I'm like, gee, I say night a lot. But that's just where this album is. Yeah, I am. I think I really like recording or playing music when everyone's kind of asleep. And again, that lyricism to Jeannie is that you're all asleep in your beds. Right. I'm out howling at the moon. So just living in the nocturnal life. And I think this sound, this low rock sound, is just bluesy and moody. And everybody always says it sounds like a noir comic or black and white,
Okay.
Smoky kind of feel to it.
Smoky.
Yeah.
That is a good
velvety,
description.
They say all those things. And I got to always tip my hat to my muse and to the towering figure that I hugely respect and always will, is Mark Sandman, because he's the one that really showed me my instrument, because I'd played guitar, and I do play guitar, and I played a little piano and studied vocal performance, and all that stuff has been very informative, but nothing beats just playing my 2-string bass. A lot of people are like, well, are you going to move on? And I have a little bit in this album. I played Resonator on the Brighter Than the Moon, which a lot of people like that song. But again, what I tell a lot of people as well too is historically, back in the day, guitars still were very expensive. Like Robert Johnson, B.B. King, Bo Diddley, the name Diddley is part of what I'm speaking of. So they would makeshift guitars. They'd either find little cigar boxes, and they'd find the broom wire, like the wire that's wrapped around a broom. Yeah. They would take that off, and that would be the guitar strings. If they didn't have that as a resource, they would go to like a beam of the house, and they would tie up wire onto that, and they'd find a little bottle glass slide and make a little makeshift diddly bow.
That scarcity that creates resourcefulness, that creates creativity.
And you hear these people who can really make incredible grooves just with one string.
Right.
That consistent pulse and that desperation of wanting to say something. And sometimes, one string is enough for me. So.
Yeah. It's a cool looking guitar.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, she does look pretty cool.
Though. It's a cool looking bass.
It's bass guitar. I for people who I don't want to go into the whole nuance of like I play a 2-string bass,
Right.
I just tell them I play bass.
Yeah.
But it really is its own little beast, is a 2-string slide bass. And as simple as it is at times that I feel, like on the good days, I'm like, oh, it feels really simple and what I'm doing makes sense. And there's days where I'm like, there's a lot of nuance to it. Because, I don't fret my guitar. I place the slide on where the fret mark is, but it's also very much by ear. So I have to make sure, obviously, it's in tune, but my intonation is correct. Because with fretting a guitar, which there's nothing wrong with that, it's always consistent because the fret is hitting, the guitar wire is hitting the fret, so that note is an A.
Yeah.
Versus this, I obviously know it's going to be a certain note when I slide to it or press onto it, but it's just a different approach to playing a stringed instrument. I love music, guitar, but I like guitars that are percussive. I like guitars that are innovative. They not necessarily are trying to reinvent the wheel, but we can sure as heck try to do so. And I really feel that's what Mark Sandman did. I respect it so much that I want to leave my mark as well too, very respectfully.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's my martial art practice, is like there's the sensei. Mark Sandman is the sensei, and I'm just one of the disciples. And plus, what a name. Like his legal real name is Mark Sandman.
Yeah.
And he lives in my dreams, certainly.
That's
and,
cool.
Yeah, it's a very fascinating world to be a part of. One of the first basses I worked on was a replica of his bass. So I play left-handed, so finding left-handed guitars that look cool is very challenging. It all fell into place, I remember. I found the knob, and then I found the tuners, then I found the bridge, and I'm like, somebody has to be visiting me. So it's just cool to like, without even trying, be a part of something bigger.
It's
so
connecting. There's a lot of connections there.
Exactly.
And that's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. Well, we're going to kind of close out here, but I will put things on our show notes and website where people can access your music and your art and all those things to make sure that people can find out all of your creative works. And what if you play a little bit as we close out?
Yeah, we can do that. We may have to do multiple takes, but I don't think so. We'll see.
I doubt it.
I'll just do the opening track from LoLo House, which is Oh Coco. So here we go. Coco, you're so bittersweet. You're rich, dark, and deep. 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 Rich, dark, and deep. Rich, dark, and deep. Rich, dark, and deep. Oh, Coco. Oh, Coco. Melt on my tongue. 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 Oh, Coco. Oh, Coco. Coco. Coco.
Nice.
Oh, thanks.
I like that ending.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a funny little song that happened. I was talking to somebody, and she was an inspiration. And then one of my strings broke on the bottom one, the top, the bottom string, the high A string. So I wrote it all in the one string, and it just came out like that. And it's a love for chocolate and being a brown person, and just brown is beautiful. So.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here, Cipriano.
Thank you very much.
Ortega.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.